correspond with some faulting, which appears to be at around 3/10 of an inch or so. You can see it continuing on. That's basically, those are the examples of what we see throughout here. We don't see that at every joint by any means. In fact, as we move on down, we see it less and less, but there are examples throughout the test section of joints where some cracking has occurred in the shoulder, and there's additional drop-off, and that coincides with faulting, which we noticed at the transverse joints. There's not really much more to say about this. This almost looks like a new pavement in many cases. Just past Station 2, and up here on my right, it appears that there may have been a sign here at one time which was removed and replaced in the shoulder. The joint sealant in the transverse joints is held up very well. Very little damage noted. It's intact in most places. It's a little bit stiff, but that's not to be unexpected when it's around 35 degrees outside, as it is while I speak. Notice no cracking in any of the slabs. Okay, here's something. We're coming up on Station 4. I'll step aside to show. Okay, there's some evidence of some pumping. Now we have that sand asphalt base underneath. Whether the pumping is coming out of there or coming from underneath there is hard to tell right now due to the coloration. But something is happening here. Again, it could possibly be just, this is the low spot where the water is going to seep to. The surface water, maybe just carrying dirt over here and settling out, drying and leaving the dirt there. It'll be interesting to look at more closely with the deflection measurements that we take. But again, this is a case where we have the crack developing only very near the transverse joint. You look along the shoulder, and that's the only place where we see any cracks developing at that location within the shoulder. That is, butting up against the pavement. We just passed Station 4. We've got another joint right up ahead of me there. That'd be around Station 4 plus 40, about 4 plus 50 approximately, where we see some of the same discoloration. Interesting enough, there's very little faulting occurring right there. At least in comparison with what we saw back up near the beginning of the test section. We're coming down to the end of the test section here, and we have now arrived. Monument where it's located, this one is up closer to the edge of the asphalt concrete shoulder, but it's the same thing. It's a number 3 reinforcing bar, about 18 inches long, driven into the soil outside the edge of the paved shoulder. Up beyond here, that is Oak Avenue up ahead of us right there, which crosses over. I'm standing at the end of the test section now, looking back around. We really need the cross sections to see what we have right here with respect to cut and fill. It's hard to look at the plan profile and tell because terrain is dropping off as we're looking here from left to right, and it's hard to know just what we have. We're probably right at grade there in this westbound lane. May even be, I think on the plans it indicates this as being a slight fill actually, but that's at the center line. The video on this. This would appear to be about the perfect time to implement a maintenance cost effectiveness study on this pavement. However, as we've seen in the past, the criteria for selecting a test section is going to be absolutely crucial here. We were actually forced into this one location to select a GPS test section, and it really isn't the best in terms of, from all aspects when you consider the amount of sight distance and so on that we had. It would have been preferable to have gotten some of the other ones, but it was simply impossible with the location, or with the amounts of cut and fill that we had, location of ramps, etc. This should be a very interesting test section to begin monitoring over time at this point, though, because one is starting to see the signs of things beginning to develop on here. And with that, we'll end the video for test section 404160. We're on State Highway 3W, which is a bypass on the southern side of Ada, Oklahoma in Pontotoc County. We're in the 3rd Division of the